Hey everybody, welcome back to Creative Chat Cafe, the talk show hangout that is on every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm your host, Zef Zan, and I'm looking forward to the next 30 minutes with you because today we have a great panel, a great topic. And in case if you're wondering where you should be watching our shows every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, look down here under my lower third. It says entrepreneurs@store.com. That's where you will watch it. And if you're wondering, do we have a hashtag? Of course we have a hashtag for this show. It's hashtag Creative Chat Cafe. And in case you want to watch all of the previous episodes of our shows, just go to Google, search, and then hashtag Creative Chat Cafe, and you will be redirected to our YouTube channel and wherever we have all our episodes in the past. So I actually, want to let you know for all the newcomers out there, for all of your audience who probably this is your first time on Creative Chat Cafe, you're wondering, what in the world is Creative Chat Cafe? Well, Creative Chat Cafe is the talk show hangout that, brings you guidance, inspiration, and, we give you results. We provide results for marketing, business development, and leadership needs. So today, I actually have a great panel. We're going to talk about leadership, and I'm going to, just have them introduce themselves. And welcome to, Scott Anders and also Sondra Firestein to the show. Welcome, everybody.
Hi, thank you so much.
Scott, why don't you take, this moment to just kind of introduce yourself so that our audience will, will know who you are.
Okay, great. I'll just take a second. My name is Scott Anders. I'm a financial advisor with Eagle Strategies and Non-Life Securities. Been doing this for 27 years. Before that, I was a military officer, and so I've done a lot of training on both the military side and leadership experience with that, as well as in my career with New York Life, a lot of leadership training. So I'm looking forward to participating in this panel.
Thank you, Scott. I'm sure this is going to be a great show because we have the right persons for it. Now, Sondra, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me again. I was here not too long ago.
Yes.
I have a personal concierge company called Pursuit Concierge and Lifestyle Management. It's a tool to allow people to achieve a work-life balance, essentially. We take over the mundane tasks that bog people down, whether it be running errands, doing research, whatever it may be. I've helped plan a bachelor party. I've helped with international education conferences. It's just a way to help people stay on track so that they can get the most out of life.
Yay, welcome back. Thank you so much. I'm pretty excited, people, for this today. We're going to be discussing a great topic, a leadership topic, of course. But as you all know, the show has 3 segments where, the first, we'll just have a general discussion of the topic. And today's topic is communication is key in leadership. So for all of you leaders out there or leaders want to be, we all lead every day, whether we realize it or not, in the family, in our society, in our groups, in our organizations, we do lead from time to time throughout our lives. And then the second part of our, conversation or the show, we will actually have tips for you, how you can become, a great communicator. And third of all, we have an inspiration resource for you. This is going to be great because it's going to be fun. And then, we'll take it from there. So let's get started. So folks, Scott and Sondra, in real estate, because I have many people, often we hear it out there, friends, they say real estate is all about location, location, location. And business, I think, is all about communication, communication, communication. Am I right?
That is correct.
Yeah, right? So communication is everything that we do, right, Scott? I personally think that, it is very important, especially in leadership. I think the importance of communication is triple because, communication is always key because good leaders are good communicators. And think about it, right? So how do the best leaders motivate others and inspire other people? Through clear communication. So Scott, you being, a graduate from West Point, and it is the school for you as military leaders. And you, I think from your resume, it mentioned that you did, corporate training, management training for senior leaders at New York Life. So tell me, Scott, in your experience, what is the relationship between communication and effective leadership?
I mean, that could take all sorts of time to cover that, but but I don't have all sorts of time. But I'm remembered of a great phrase from one of our seminars, and it was out where you're from, Sondra. Fierce Conversation, Susan Scott, who's out based in Seattle, and her watchword for her presentation on fierce communications in leadership was our lives succeed or fail one conversation at a time. And you think about that, there's lots of layers to that, but I think particularly as business owners, as leaders in our own lives, personal lives, that's such a true statement, one conversation at a time, and whether that's a good conversation or a failed conversation or a missed conversation. So I think when it comes to the relationship with leadership, it's just you can't get anywhere unless you tell your people where you're going, and that is the fundamental very first thing. You've got to be able to share the vision, where are we going. Then you have to communicate what their role is in that process, what each person's part of the team is, because so often in surveys people don't really understand. I'm here, the company's got a great mission statement, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. And then finally, as a leader, you've got to circle back and with that questioning and follow up, hold people accountable, and just check in. You just can't, set the flag on the hill and say, follow me, and never look back. You've got to keep talking to people, keep people engaged. And that's all about your skills as connecting with the people on your team to get it done.
Any key points that you can share that, leaders should think about to get things done, Scott?
Just briefly, I would just say that the key thing is understanding that people don't listen to every word you say and don't understand everything you say.
Very true.
I think they yelled
attest to that.
They yelled that at me like the first day in the Army was keep it simple, stupid, and that's a great business thing. So I think the key takeaway I would say is just you can't communicate too much. And walk around and talk to your employees. Stay engaged. Use multiple forms of communication to not only continue to share the vision, but also to check in and say, how are people doing? Do they understand their role? Do they understand how it fits? And I think that's how you build a great team, and you get the leverage and synergy that helps in accomplishing missions, because you're not doing it all by yourself. All of a sudden you realize that somebody has great ideas and it's not all on your back. People get creative, they get energized, and that's the exciting thing is that all of a sudden you're being propelled, you're not just dragging people.
True, and you're right about, sometimes we're not just working, just us, we're working with a team of people. And, in the military, you're always working with a team of people. It's never an I thing. It's always an us thing, so the communication becomes amped up, because it's very important, because if you're working within a team and you don't know how to communicate well, there's no follow-up and all that stuff. I mean, it could disintegrate.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Scott.
No, that's absolutely correct. And you see, I think in the current news, you see something like the Veterans Administration scandal, where the higher-ups and everybody was saying, yeah, we have a problem, we know we have a problem, and then they created, we'll see everybody in 14 days, but then nobody followed up, and you ended up with people just sort of gaming the system to have appointments in 14 days. as opposed to really solving the problem. So that's a classic communication failure where everybody was talking about it, and from the leadership, they thought it was fixed, but the followers couldn't figure it out, didn't have the right resources, and therefore sort of gained the numbers. And you ended up with the mess of basically the mission not being accomplished. We weren't taking care of that.
Sondra, let me quickly ask you this. Like me and Scott were talking about, the speaking aspects of communication, and a lot of communication is the speaking aspect of things. But do you think there's any other things or elements of communications that, we should be focusing on?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times we think we're listening, but we're not listening as intently as we should.
True.
So I actually, just a small anecdote, I took a mindfulness-based seminar training that was really to just help me, stay on track in my mind. Right. There's a lot going on when you own your own business. How do you handle all of the stresses? And a lot of it was about calming down, but one of the exercises we did was actually mindful listening. And we had a quick exercise. We had about 6 minutes, 3 minutes to listen to our partner, and we were supposed to just listen. We had an opportunity afterwards to ask questions, only clarification questions though, but it was 3 minutes of intense listening so that when they were done, we would recount the story as we had heard it. And what was so amazing about doing that so deliberately was that I was very aware of how many little questions and comments were popping into my mind during that 3-minute span. And it wasn't very long, but I must have had, 25, 30 questions pop into my mind. Yeah. And it was really amazing to realize just how active our brains are and how much effort it takes to actually sit and just listen. And it's really important to realize how quickly our mind is moving all the time, because and especially as we're here talking about communication, I think it would be really great if we took the initiative to really apply that kind of mindful listening. We're here, we're having a conversation. We know that we're going to have to respond to what the other one says, but you don't necessarily have to work so hard while the other person is talking to try to come up with what you're going to say. And I have to say that when it was my turn to talk and my partner was listening to me for 3 minutes solid, she was staring at me, listening. At first it was a little uncomfortable, but then she was able to recount. I thought I had given very little detail, and she was able to recount much more than I thought I had said. And it was a really amazing experience to realize that if you allow yourself to listen fully, people will actually take away more than you think you're sharing. Yeah. So it's up to all of us to take the responsibility to actually keep our ears open, keep our minds quiet, and just soak in what we can as it comes to us.
I think that what I'm hearing is the process of listening to learn instead of listening to respond. It seems like in most conversation, somebody starts talking and go, oh, that reminds me of a story, and then you're getting ready to share your story as soon as the other person stops talking, as opposed to if you're listening to learn, you're going to go, tell me more, keep on going, wow, that's fascinating, and then you really can become engaged, and that just heightens the relationship and the whole experience.
Very true. That's a great point, and thank you for bringing that up, Sondra, because it gives me chills just listening to you about the listening part, because that is so true, because, especially with me who have that people personality, and many people who have that personality have that challenge, and I have had to learn it the hard way, because you go through certain steps, like you said, when somebody tells you a story, you're so tempted to just jump in and tell your side of the story and tell your story. And I was so Scott, you and I attend a lot of networking events, and actually this brings me back to a networking event where I attended, and the speaker was just mentioning about how she had to learn to listen. I actually had taken that advice and ran with it. She said she too too has that hard time to kind of focus sometimes when people are talking, because you just like want to respond because you're happy. You go like, hey, I want to tell my story too. But what she said was very, poignant, because she said, what I've had to learn is really have a prop in my hand. She said she actually goes out networking, and she always holds she holds a glass in her hand or a cup. She says, because whenever somebody's talking, she needs to pay attention. She says, every time somebody speaks, I'll just take a gulp. Whenever I'm tempted, whenever I'm tempted to speak, she says, I'll take a gulp. Just in case, my mouth when I start talking, she said. And I thought that was a great thing, because, she had to actually master the art of good listening. So she had to figure out a way, and that was super cool, I thought. And I tried it out and really did work, because, sometimes we just have to learn how to master the listening skill. And you're absolutely right, Sondra. You'll be amazed at how many of our questions that go in that pop up during a conversation. At the end of the conversation, sometimes those questions become amped up, and you tend to have a better conversation. Am I right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's just really important to stay quiet as long as possible, because you might get a lot more out of it. And you'll find that your question was probably answered. As they pop up in your head, they'll get answered as it goes along.
Very true. That's so true. Now, Scott, let me ask you this, right? Because you work with, in the U.S. military, I'm sure you've actually been around leaders, like you mentioned earlier. But if you were working with a leader, say in any kind of situation, business leader, family leadership, and if you were helping this person to actually build his or her communication skills, what would you help them focus on?
A couple of key things, but one of the most important things is you've got to be authentic. You can't. Many times in our lives, I've got one hat on and I'm the boss of my company, and then I got the other hat on, I'm the parent, and I got the other hat on, I'm the spouse, and you're playing different roles and saying, well, I'm supposed to behave this way, and I've got to look like this when I'm here, and that really doesn't work. That sort of messes up effective communication. So I think the key thing in effective communication is being authentic.
Do you think they should be managing on efforts or results more, Scott? Do you think?
Well, I think when we're talking about that, you've got to talk about the efforts. When we're getting down to leadership and results, which we're all looking for, you've got to be able to communicate well enough to focus on what's going on in that person's life and what their behaviors are as it relates to results. And so, just going back, it's being able to define the goals, understand their role in it, and then explain what their role is, and then ask them about their role, but you're focusing on their results, whether it's number of phone calls, whether it's exercise, whatever it is that they're doing as a part of the goal. That's your communication process.
Do you think as leaders, effective communicators, accountability is important also?
Right, and I think that's a big part that most people sort of skip, and if you haven't had any leadership experience, sometimes it's uncomfortable because you're just channeling maybe a bad boss that you had, and you think, ooh, accountability is somebody beat me up about something.
Yeah.
And that's not the process. It's really just checking in with someone and said, last week we said, we each made a commitment to do X that we thought was really important toward the goal. I made, my calls, or I did this, or I made that change, and I was successful, not successful. This is what I'm committing to next week. How did you do on what you committed? And then people can say, oh, I struggled, I didn't struggle. But that sort of shared accountability, that huddle, as we often call it, just quickly getting together is how we making progress. Any problems, any challenges? Is everybody clear on what the key points are this week? Priorities? Great, let's go. but that's the little accountability that keeps everybody centered. And in the firestorm of, or the whirlwind of our daily activities and stuff happens all the time, you're reminded frequently enough about the key ultimate purpose that gets to the results we're looking for. Without that checking in, that accountability piece, reminding of the goals and the individual actions, you can go for months at a time thinking you're working really hard and not getting any feedback from your boss and realize, wow, I'm in the wrong parts.
I'm glad you mentioned that one thing, Scott, is that when I actually recently had a communication challenge, and it just brings me back to this story, because when we work as leaders, when we're working with the people in our team, sometimes we forget to check in and follow up and have them be accountable about the things or the things that we have them do, And one of the challenges that I've had with my team recently, and this is one thing that I've had to learn, is that, the three things which I will be sharing now is the three most important tips. I think the most basic any good communicator or any good leader should be practicing. They're very basic. It may seem minuscule, but actually they're the most important, I think. And one of it actually supports what Sondra said earlier. When we work with a team, what I've realized and what I've learned, you have all these moving aspects, all the moving parts in your day-to-day routine, and your projects, your tasks, and as leaders, if you don't keep up, they will fall apart because you cannot depend on the other person sometimes. Am I right about this, Scott and Sondra?
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
So the leader has to follow up. So what I've learned, the three most basic things, like I said, they may seem minuscule, but they're most important. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but number one, as good communicators and as good leaders, you have to communicate in specifics. So you have to be specific. Learn to communicate with clarity. Make sure your message gets through and get to the point. No floral words, no beat around the bush, but get to the point and make it clear. And sometimes, we have to go back and ask them a couple times. That is okay, because I want my team to know that it's okay for them to come back to me and ask questions later. I never say no to a question. Some people say, oh, I have a stupid question. There's no such thing as stupid question. It's a question, And number two, I think every leader, a good communicator, needs to have an open mind. Just like what Scott said, it's not about your ego, all right? Seek opinions of others. Don't be afraid of opposing views. I think many leaders right now, they always want to say, I have a final say, because, they say it's all about my words and not yours. Correct me if I'm wrong about this, Scott.
No, that's absolutely true. And I think you get much weaker decisions if the burden is all on the experience and background of one person. If you build a good team, you're gonna be so happy that you've got people engaged and brilliant ideas, even from the most junior person on your team.
Absolutely, very true.
Well, sometimes it's the people who are fresh that have the best ideas, because they're not kind of clouded by all this over information that they have to process.
Thank you very much, Sondra, for bringing that up, because that's the truth. That's what I've been always trying to get people to understand, because it's okay to have opposing views, because sometimes other people's views and ideas could be better than yours, and they could be the ones that help you grow your business, your company, your projects. So we cannot, we cannot have a closed mindset. We have to have an open mind, so that we can communicate well, and we can have those opposing views can really help us grow, actually. And the third of all is exactly what Sondra said. Shut up and listen. That is the hardest thing to do, but that is the most important thing to do. Like Sondra said, you have to pay attention. You have to listen. Close this and start listening, Great leaders, I think, and I'm sure Scott and Sondra will agree, is that they know how to dial it up and they know how to dial it down. And the best communicators, I think, are the great listeners. Great communicators are skilled at reading, and sensing moods, the dynamics, attitudes of the people around them. They pay attention to that because they know how people react to how they communicate will tell them whether they're a good communicator and a good listener or not. So that is in support of what Sondra was saying, because, shut up and just listen.
I will say, too, bringing it back to your questions, how it's important to ask questions.
Yes.
You can tell someone's paying attention by the quality of their questions. And so you can tell if someone's listening if the question, it's okay if you need something explained again, but it's usually really easy to tell when someone hasn't been paying attention because either they have no questions or their questions seem almost, unrelated.
Yeah. I love that, and that's a great point. Say that again. You can actually listen and understand if their questions are, like you said, Sondra, are really showing or indicating their interest in that conversation. So that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Love it! Another thing, Sondra, so we're on this topic of tips. What's your communication tips for our guests out there today?
Yeah, so Scott was talking about it a little bit. In terms of setting the company objective, I think it's a little bit like a Russian doll. There's the entire all-encompassing goal of the company, and then you break it down on a group level, and then maybe a team within the group, and then the individual. And I think it's really important to give everyone a little bit of ownership in the overarching goal by giving them specific tasks that are easily monitored, you can keep track of it, so that everyone feels that they are personally contributing to the overall success.
Sure.
And when you can give people that level of responsibility, I think people are going to be more productive, more willing to contribute, more willing to think outside of the box, because people, I think, naturally want to have ownership over their own projects.
Sure.
A couple other things, too. I think that it's really important when you are a leader to set the communication style. That when it's not just when your people talk to people outside of the company, but also within the company, you have to set a certain level of respect. You have to make sure that everything is done with professionalism, and just make sure everyone's on that same page, because it helps strengthen the company identity, because everyone is kind of pursuing the same path, though they can apply their own personality to it. It's just unifying everyone. But then lastly, I think one of the most important things as a leader is the topic of feedback. I think a lot of times leaders want to insulate themselves from feedback, or they don't necessarily give feedback in the way that they should. I think constructive criticism is crucial. I think if you're going to tell someone that they need to do something a little bit better, you need to be very specific about how they can improve, and have a conversation with them to see if they can determine how they can improve, because then you know that they really understand the steps that need to be taken to get to that next level. But then lastly, something that I've noticed in the workplace is that there tends to be a lack of appreciation.
Oh my God, so true.
We all do really hard work, and it should be fulfilling to us, alone. But we are social creatures, and we do want to know that the work that we're doing is not getting missed by others. And so I think it's great on everyone, on every level within the company, to show appreciation, say thank you, say good job. Hopefully you have more positive feedback than negative feedback. But I think it's really important as the leader, when you have someone that's working for you, that's doing an absolutely stellar job, that they know that they are doing a really good job for you. Because I know so many people that work their butts off. We have a lot of tech companies out here, and they feel, and I've even been in that position where I felt like I was literally a monkey that was just replaceable. That, I just had to do my task, and if I did it, that was great. If I didn't, well, you're kind of in trouble. But that's about where the level of praise stopped. And I think it's really important to look.
it's a culture that people have not, followed up very well with,
Yeah.
You're
And I
absolutely
think
right.
people get really tired when they feel like they're
Yes.
maybe being taken advantage of. They're going to look for other opportunities where someone does give them a pat on the back and says, really good job today. So those are my important points.
Great points. My favorite, definitely, of your points is the appreciation part, because I agree. Many leaders forget to do that, and and that's what actually all of us as human beings. That's what we kind of appreciate, even if it's just saying, "Hey, you rocked the project this time. It was really cool. We loved it." I mean, simple words like that, trust me, I've tested it out, with my team. That actually would spark a different level of anticipation in the way they work, and that's just how it is. I actually want to, go ahead.
Well, I just think it also does wonders as the person giving praise, because when you can make someone's day, it reinforces the love of what you do.
Yes, and you kind of give me chills. There's nothing wrong as a leader, for you to say, hey, great job, because I think that actually tells people, paints a better picture of you as a leader who can communicate very well. Because it doesn't have to be about, patting on the back or, hey, whatever, but it's just about just saying something really nice. To just say that, hey, I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you as a member of my team. And we need to do more of that. That's just what I think. And I actually have a picture. So with for our inspiration today, I want to kind of share this with everybody, because I think this is really cool, because it reminds me of where I was before. So if y'all can see this cartoon, it says, this isn't what I wanted, and then and Dilbert says, I know, and he says, your communication skills are so poor that I gave up trying to understand what you wanted and instead put some random numbers on a spreadsheet. And the employee just says, why didn't you just ask me to clarify? Apparently your listening skills need work too. So this is like so poignant about what we've been talking about: listening, clarification, be specific. It's just not about talking, communicating, but we also have to listen to. So they're both, I think, are in the wrong. So let me quickly unshare this and get to you and Scott and Sondra. Scott, what do you think of this? I mean, is this something that you see pretty often out there?
Yeah, well, it's just great comments from Sondra. So I would just echo all of those things. I was listening on the radio yesterday, and there was up in the Massachusetts area, there's I guess a change in ownership with the CEO got pushed out by his brother or something. And all of the workers in this family food market that have, they make revenue $10 million a day, have all gone out on strike to support the old CEO. And that's just sort of a crazy thing. So why did that happen? And it's because the former CEO would walk through the stores and talk to people and say, how you doing? And pat them on the back, and, the butcher and the guy on the loading docks. And so you don't have to have a PhD in communications.
No.
Being authentic to who you are, and then sort of suppressing your ego a little bit is the tip. And being an Army guy, it pains me to promote a Navy guy's book, but in all my leadership training, this book here called It's Your Ship is just really a great example
I love that.
Of leadership. And his point was he would go around to every man on his ship and ask him, if this was your ship, what would you do? And how could you make your job better? And I want you to treat everything like it is your ship. And so he came up with very creative ideas that took really the worst ship in the Navy in terms of all these ratings into one of the top performing ships, because they cut out all sorts of stupid things just with a little creativity, and that he would have never thought of because he's at a different level. But he got the team working together. And again, many times I know as a boss, you're so busy, you're working so hard, you think everybody gets it, that they appreciate it, but they don't. And walking around and literally, figuratively, that 1 minute manager, you see somebody do a good thing, no matter who they are, because you got to tell them right then, not at the monthly team meeting. A generic group hug doesn't work. You've got to take the moment, and seize that moment to communicate a sincere, authentic appreciation. And that's the world of it.
Sondra, what do you think of that cartoon?
Yeah, I was really trying to think of an example that that this applied, and to be honest, it hasn't come up for me much, at least not since college. I mean, I definitely had some times in college where I was given an assignment, I thought I did it right, and then I got my grade back, and apparently it was all wrong. I don't know.
Right.
But in the workplace, you're not graded. Your work actually counts for something. It's all contributing to a bigger picture. So for myself, I'm not shy to ask questions. If there's something I don't understand, I'm going to ask my boss, I'm going to ask my coworkers, I'm going to try to spread my questions amongst as many people as possible so that I don't come off too annoying with the amount of questions I have. But I think it is really important that if you're sitting there and you're given a task and you don't know what it is, don't fake it, because people are going to see that, and then they're going to see that you didn't take the initiative to find out exactly what you were going to do. So if you're in Dilbert's position,
yeah, absolutely.
If you're in the boss's position, I would say, I think he's on the money. She does have a listening problem. If he did go to have questions and she didn't really recognize he wasn't, understanding what it was, then I think ultimately her role as a leader, she didn't follow through, and it is her job to make sure her employees and the people working for her are making sure things are done correctly. So just ask questions. If people are annoyed with you because you ask too many questions, then let them be annoyed. But at least you can, be confident that you did the best that you could do. And you did your best to follow through as much as possible.
So we're actually at the end of the show. I just want to, as usual, share with all of you how and where you would, watch our shows and how you can connect with us and follow us on social media. So I just want to show you what our website looks like. So if you go to entrepreneursatsoar.com, you can go to the tab Watch Hangouts, and that's Creative Chat Cafe, and you can follow up all our previous shows and their blogs, details of conversations in our blogs. And then you can also go to our YouTube channel where you can actually follow our Creative Chat Cafe playlist, and you can watch all the previous shows there. And last of all, I would like to invite everybody who's on Google Plus, to come on and join us right here in the Creative Chat Cafe community page, where, you can come in and introduce yourself. We love to hear what you do. We want to hear your story, because we love to share our story. So, come on and join us. And before we go, let's get Sondra and Scott here to tell you where you can connect with them. Go ahead, Scott.
Actually, on my
lower third there.
Yeah, my lower third. I'm sorry, I didn't have the right word. I couldn't communicate it clearly. After all this training, I speak up. But yeah, wscottandrews.com is my website, and I think my email address is on there. But you can connect through that for again, anything in the financial spectrum, but also on the same topic about leadership, about communication, because it is something I'm passionate about.
Thank you. Sondra, where can our audience connect with you?
Yeah, so one way is through my website, which you can see right here, there we go, but I'm also super active on social media, Google+, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I love just talking to anyone and hearing what their ideas are and what their feedback is. I'm all about communicating with anyone. Yeah, so I'm at Seattle Sondra on most of my social media. So Sondra with an O. But yeah, just reach out at any point. I mean, I love hearing other people's ideas. I love expanding my mind. So come talk to me.
Love it, love it. Thank you so much. Such a great, such a great pleasure to have all of you on the panel today. And hey, folks, before we go, I just want to thank you all for watching Creative Chat Cafe. Don't forget, it's every Wednesday on entrepreneurs@soar.com, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also, here we go, our hashtag again, hashtag Creative Chat Cafe. And until we'll see you at the next show, I want to thank Sondra and Scott today for joining me. So let's raise our mugs and looking forward to the next Creative Chat Cafe. Have a great day. Have a creative and productive week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.